I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education, April 28th, 2015 at 7 o'clock p.m. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Here.
Moscato.
Here. Here.
Watt. Duke.
Here.
Hodge.
Here.
Dillon.
Here. Mr. Hodge, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To celebrate.
Dr. Hitchens, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
We do have two changes in the personnel report, which is in the consent agenda. So Steve Pierce, when he does the consent agenda, will talk to you about those two changes. Everything else is the same.
All right, then we will move on first to celebrating successes. I would like to invite Can Do to the speaker table to talk about the Exemplary Educator Award winners this year.
Will the mic get me if I stand? Because we've got so many people here that we need to recognize.
That's exciting.
Good evening, my name is Deb Grizel, and I'm the chair of Can Do, which is a volunteer-led organization founded over a decade ago by parents of Batavia's gifted and high-ability students. The acronym Can Do stands for Challenge Advocacy Network Development Organization. Can Do provides advocacy, education, and networking opportunities to Batavia's gifted and high-ability students K through 12 and their families, as well as our educational community. It's my privilege and pleasure tonight to present to the Board of Education and the Batavia Public Schools community this year's recipients of the 2015 Exemplary Educator Award. This is Can Do's second year sponsoring this award, and again we've received inspiring and heartfelt nominations for educators in every category from both parents and students. Recipients of the Exemplary Educator Award are professional educators who go above and beyond to challenge curious minds, inspire creativity, engage gifted and high-ability students and students of all abilities, and encourage them to meet their full potential as lifelong learners. This year's recipients were honored in a reception held prior to tonight's Board of Education meeting, and Can Do would like to thank Enticing Cuisine for generously providing the delicious food that we enjoyed together as we celebrated these fine educators and their contributions to our learning community. Educators were nominated in the following 8 categories: East Side Elementary Educator, West Side Elementary Educator, 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade educators, High School Humanities, Arts, or Social Sciences Educator, High School Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Educator, and administrator or other staff member who is not a classroom instructor. After I present this year's award recipients, the community is invited to visit the Can Do website at bataviacando.weebly.com or find us on Facebook to see a list of this year's award recipients, as well as the educators who were honorable mentions in each category. Can Do will send each building principal in the district a list of the nominees and award recipients from their respective buildings, and we encourage them to celebrate this achievement and recognition with their building staff. On behalf of Can Do, I extend our heartfelt gratitude and congratulations to these outstanding educators, and our thanks to the Board of Education for allowing us to present these awards this evening. At this time, I'm honored to present the 2015 Exemplary Educator Award recipients. In the East Side Elementary category, Mr. Scott Hunter from J.B. Nelson. In the West Side Elementary category, Miss Barb Spence from Richmond. The 6th grade at Rotolo Middle School in Language Arts, Miss Lisa Rios. The 7th grade award this year is shared by Miss Tanya Majersky, a science teacher at Rotolo. And Miss Barbara Mamek, who is a special education instructor at Rotolo Middle School. For 8th grade at Rotolo, Mr. David Carlson in English Language Arts. At the high school in the Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences area, Mr. Joseph Cranston, who's a history teacher. And at the high school in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and he could not be here with us tonight, Mr. Kirk Tanka, who's a chemistry teacher. And in the category of administrator or other staff member who's not a classroom instructor, Mrs. Angela Sutherland, instructional technologist. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Next, I'd like to invite the Batavia Foundation for Educational Excellence Spring Grant awarders.
Big checks. Good evening. We are very happy to be here again tonight. I'm Nan Phillips, and I'm Vice Chair of Batavia Foundation and Chair of the Grant Committee, and Catherine Fitch is the Chair of the Foundation this year. So we are very happy to be here. This year, the Batavia Foundation for Educational Excellence gave out $3,025, including $550 from the Andrea Will Fund in the fall for the mini grants. Those grants, for those of you that are not familiar, are only allowed to be up to $700, and those are always issued in the fall. And now, tonight, we are very happy to award the spring grants, which are those that exceed $700 and don't have a maximum limit. And we are awarding $27,726.22 to teachers for 9 spring grants. This totals $35,751 to fund original innovative plans submitted by the Batavia Public Schools staff to enhance the educational projects of the district and the programs. So we're very, very happy. Grants have been awarded to all 8 schools this year and have had a major impact on general education classrooms, specials, special education services, summer school, and have varied from enhancing CPR instruction at the middle school to engineering concepts to improving listening and attention instruction by improving seating and sound system improvements, and even providing great adventures in physical education classrooms. So it was a really wide expanse of grants, and we're very happy to do that. So this is why the Batavia Foundation for Educational Excellence exists, and this is what makes our hard work raising money to be so much fun tonight when we get to give these checks away. So with all of that being said, we would like to call up the people that we are recognizing for their very well-written grants this year. We're going to start with Laura Abraham from Rotolo Middle School. She wrote a grant called Pretty Darn Real CPR. Our next grant goes to a group of people from McWayne, and this was submitted by Nicole Papandouros, Bethany Rutzi, Annie Halaven, and Marcy Marzullo, and the grant was called Moving with the Brain in Mind. Here you are. I'm cashing that. And the next grant goes to Marcy again and Zach Kraft. Marcy, you're not done. Marcy and Zach Kraft from HC Storm are going to enhance summer school instruction this year with a program called Summer School Lego We Do Engineering. Congratulations. And our next grant is called Adventure Education. It was submitted by Sarah Thomas and Ryan Farwell from Batavia High School. Congratulations. Thank you. Here's your certificates.
Thank you.
And our grant going to Louise White School for improved seating, improved learning goes to Julia Parkhurst, Joyce Elliott, Courtney Ozan, Rachel McMahon, and Audrey Slana.
This is Virginia. Thank you.
And our next grant is also going to work on sensory issues. A sensory smart classroom goes to teachers from McWayne, Debbie Von Olson, Jill Marker, Chad Clary, and Barb Spence.
Squeeze it. Oops, sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Making Their Mark, bringing printmaking into the elementary classroom. This grant is being shared by all 6 elementary art teachers: Nicole Papandoris, Teresa Fontana, Michelle Bach, Laura Starzik, Brian Schultz, and Joseph Kasparian. Between all schools. That's wonderful. What a fun project.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
guys.
you. And do you, can I give you the other ones? Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Thank you. Can we trust her?
Next, we have Greg Fink and Gina Grunwald from HWS Hooverwood to finish updating and improve the audio visual or audio system in the physical education classroom. And that grant is being matched by the Hooverwood PTO as well. So we love to see that. And last but not least, we're very excited about giving $3,679 to Daniel Russo at the high school to purchase a 3D printer. So you can see why we are excited. We had a very successful casino bowling night, 6 weeks ago? How long ago was it?
Yeah, March 13th, Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th, and it was a lot of fun for all of you that were there. You can back us up on that, and if you weren't there this past year, please come next year and help us raise some more money so we can continue doing this. So thank you very much. Thank you. And we're not done, because we're going to move on to the next celebration that we want to share with you. We've been here before talking about the newly established Batavia Public Schools Hall of Honor, and you may have seen the press release. We have released the names of the honorees, but we wanted to make sure we came tonight and share that with you as well. So we're very excited about the Hall of Honor being launched. Our inductees include 10 alumni: Ken Anderson from the class of 1967, Bob Dahlstrom from the class of 1957, Jim Hansen from 1943, Dan Issel from 1966, Don Kramer from 1976, Robert Peterson from 1948, Jim Roberts from 1976, Craig Sager from 1969, Jeff Schilke, 67, Tim Schmitz from 1984. In addition to those distinguished alumni, we are honoring Batavia Public Schools staff members who have served in the district a minimum of 10 years. And they go to Lisa Palacey. Lisa's here tonight. And our other honoree is Marilyn Robinson, who served admirably. Marilyn did pass away in 2010. We're also honoring 2 friends, extraordinary volunteers that have given years and years of dedicated service to the public schools. And those 2 awards are both being given posthumously, one to Les Hodge, Greg's father. So certainly see where Greg received his training in giving to the community. His father passed away in 1999. And Gene Tyre, Amy Nelson's dad. Amy, congratulations. He served in many capacities, and he passed away in 1992. Now, we're really excited. We've done a lot of work, but we are rolling in the celebration now, and the celebration is going to take place starting on Wednesday, September 16th. Our honorees will all be, anyone that can get here is going to be asked to be a part of the homecoming parade on that Wednesday evening. Then following up with that on Friday night at the football game, they will be introduced and honored at the football game. And then the big celebration, the big event that is underway, being planned to be held at the Batavia Fine Arts Center on Saturday, September 19th. We will have an official induction ceremony and celebration. So that is open to the public. We hope we have a really good turnout, and it's going to be a great event.
Yes, it is.
So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Next, I'd like to turn to Dr. Hitchens to move toward board member appreciation.
Board member appreciation. So we had an election in April, and so we will be seeing two new board members next week on Tuesday night, but we wanted to make sure that we paused and took some time. I know that Greg is really embarrassed about this, but we took some time to celebrate Melanie and Greg, who are leaving this board after their years of service. So I want to start with Melanie. You guys can chime in, but I do know that we very much appreciate the fact that your decisions are always made with the best interest of the kids in your heart, and you never apologize for your decisions. You're very adamant that you want the best opportunities for the students of Batavia, and we will miss you as a board member. Thank you. And Greg. Greg, thank you so much for all of you've got such a good sense of humor, and you support this district in so many ways that I don't think people always see it. You were a booster on the Booster Club, you are on the Hall of Honor Committee, and you support this district through your eating. So anytime there's a food night, Greg and John make sure that they go, and when the proceeds get donated back to the school. So hopefully you'll continue to serve the district in that way. And in other ways as well. We hope to see you keep showing up at the Hall of Honor meetings. And
Not going anywhere.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you, Greg. Appreciate your
And just because no one else is speaking does not mean that we do not value and honor the service. I just think that a lot of us are so grateful for your service that we'd like to maintain our dignity and not talk publicly about how much we appreciated you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll be moving on to public comments. If anyone wishes to address the board this evening under public comments, please see our recording secretary, Kathy Scafidi. She'll give you a pink form that has our board policy for addressing the board. Please put your full name and address on the form, as we are required by state law to keep a detailed set of minutes for our meetings. If you'd prefer to provide comments for the entire board in written form, there's a blue form that Kathy can give you. When you address the Board of Education or Administration will not enter into dialogue on an issue. It doesn't mean that we don't take your item seriously. If you have unanswered questions, a board member or an administrator will get back to you regarding your matter at a later date. If you have any props or visual aids that you wish to use during your address to the board, please have those reviewed by Dr. Hitchens, who is our board elected secretary, prior to your presentation. And we ask everyone that addresses the board to please come to the microphone so they can be heard. And we just like to remind everyone we have a full schedule, so we're asking you to respect our 3-minute time limit. Do I have all the pink sheets, Kathy? All right, I'd like to invite Michelle Alache to the table.
I just want to ask the board and the administration to consider hosting these meetings in a bigger venue. It's great to have such wonderful attendance, but people have to stand at the back of the room or spill out into the hallway. So please consider just moving these to a room with more space and chairs so that everybody who can attend could hear the proceedings. Sometimes I end up in the hallway and I can't even hear you guys, so thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Alache. Next, I'd like to invite Sylvia Keppel to the table.
Hi, I had sent the board some comments in advance regarding inaccuracy and bias in the AP Human Geography textbook on display. I have many more examples that I can give you if you would like. I was disappointed that the response I received from Kathy Dremel had nothing to do with what I had sent, but I hope that the rest of you took the time to read my comments and examine the book. And please vote no to the textbook's approval. I would hope that all of you would care about what the children are learning and do not reflexively abnegate to the staff your responsibility to ensure students are receiving quality educational materials that reflect the values of the community. So I will summarize what I found in the textbook for you and for the public record. Again, if you would like specific examples, I will share them with you when I'm not limited to 3 minutes. The Cultural Landscape, 11th edition by Rubinstein, is inaccurate and biased. There are false assumptions masquerading as fact regarding resources, ecology, religions, population growth, places, history, gender, employment, sexuality, and even the foods people eat. There is bias against the Judeo-Christian religions that founded our country. Instead, we see favored status for Islam and other Eastern religions, as well as socialist governments. Only after parents in Tennessee put pressure on Pearson, the company that publishes this book and is at the center of Common Core, did Pearson remove a blatantly offensive passage that attacked Jews in the country of Israel. But they left intact other more subtly biased sections. One of the most egregious is their treatment of the one-child policy in China. The book states, quote, "As China moves toward a market economy in the 21st century and as Chinese families become wealthier, the harsh rules in the one-child policy have been relaxed, especially in urban areas. Clinics provide counseling on a wider range of family planning options. Instead of fines, Chinese couples wishing a second child pay a family planning fee to cover the cost to the government of supporting the additional person. Fears that relaxing the one-child policy would produce a large increase in the birth rate have been unfounded," end quote. That section is such a farce. It leaves out China's barbaric forced abortion policy that has garnered international attention and has been the center of congressional testimony. Nowhere does it mention the nearly 34 million more men than women in mainland China right now because tens of millions of female babies have been selectively killed. So much for the high gender equality rating the book gives China. This is huge if you're talking about humans and their activities and influence on the world, but these numbers don't fit the book's narrative. In reality, because of the one-child policy and gender imbalance, China faces an epidemic of human trafficking of women and children for sexual slavery, child brides, and male heirs. The relaxation of China's population control policies that the book touts have been extremely minor, and forced abortion continues. I could go on if I had more time, but I don't. So if a picture is worth 1,000 words, I will leave you with 2,000 that you won't find in the carefully crafted bias of the textbook, the reality of life in China that Rubinstein and Pearson hide. The first is a picture that exploded in Chinese social media and then international news in 2013. It is of Fang Jianmei and her 7-month-old forcibly aborted baby. The second is a photo that went viral earlier this year of a Chinese father handcuffed to his 6-year-old daughter at an airport in China. According to the papers, he says, quote, "I saw a warning by police on the TV to take care as traffickers and pickpockets would be out stealing in the holiday rush. I don't care about pickpockets, but I do care very much about losing my daughter." So please reconsider this textbook, and for parents out there, know what your children are learning and know what books they are being fed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Keppel. Is there anyone here from BESPA tonight?
Yes,
I'm sorry, I'm looking. And I forgot you had mentioned that you were going to be taking over addressing the board, so we appreciate you being here.
Okay. I'm Joan Cram. If you don't know me, I am a library parapro at Rotolo Middle School, and I am the building representative for BESPA, and I'm representing our union tonight. And I just had like one little piece of information because it was kind of exciting. For the first time, BESPA sent 2 people to represent us at the Regional Association Conference at Rosemont last week. Cindy Kane, who is a special ed parapro at the high school, and Sue Carpenter, who is a secretary at McWayne. They are also our co-treasurers, and they attended the conference, which is sponsored by NEA and IEA, and got a lot of information. And it was just exciting for us that, that this could happen. So that's all I have to say for tonight.
That's great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite Amy Bianchieri, BEA president, to the table.
Hello. I can segue on that because it was really nice to have Cindy there and Sue there. And the RA is our annual representative assembly, so it's one of the bigger elected bodies where we decide on what IEA is going to represent for the year. And it was a very good conference in RA this year. We had a Newtown mother who started a charity who came and spoke to us about her experiences, and she talked about the charity, which is actually about bringing sort of love and hope to everybody, and it was centered more around, she lost a child, but it was centered more around we don't want to have kids who felt like the shooter. So, and kids who only communicate to their mother via text and email in their own house. So it was really powerful. Also, ironically, Chris Cook was elected to be or chosen to be the IEA's Friend of Education award recipient this year. And the day before he came to accept the award at the RA, he was released by Governor Rauner. So he came and gave a very, very powerful speech to us, and it highlighted all the things that he's done for public education, which was nice. And then, of course, I mentioned this last board meeting, but our own Batavia AGS teacher, Jen Erickson, was the recipient of the IEA's Excellence in Education Award. She is going to go to the NEA in February to see if she can win the national version of that. And in her speech, it was really amazing. The reason that she won, if you don't know much about her, is that she does a fantastic job in Batavia, but she also travels around the world and goes to different countries that are in need of teachers, and she volunteers her time teaching. And she she went into this award competition, I guess, because if you win the national, you get a big cash prize, and she wants to use that to go to other countries. So it was just amazing. It was really nice to see her there. I do have a couple of things I just wanted to talk about today. I just spent 3 hours standing at the Kane County Board meeting directly before this, and actually some of my friends from Batavia, some of my fellow teachers, and were standing there along with me. And I just want to say that the Kane County Board meeting, Chris Lausen was presenting his version of the Governor Rauner turnaround plan, and that meeting was packed. It's funny that you mentioned the not enough room, because at that meeting there were so many people that it was out into the atrium and out into the street, and they had to have overflow in a basement room with a video feed, which I thought was interesting. But that being said, the public comment was overwhelmingly positive towards the middle class and towards unions, and that was very, very good for us to hear. And there were a lot of people there that were talking about how the unions are defending the middle class. That being said, the part I wanted to talk to you about is Mr. Lausen, when he proposed his ideas, prefaced it with, since we all know that roads and schools are deteriorating, we have to agree that blah, 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 and then he went on for his whole agenda. And one of our members, Julie Strasser, who's a reading specialist at Grace McWayne, spoke and talked about just how offended she was that he would preface it with our schools are deteriorating, because clearly our schools are very strong and we want to keep them strong. And I thought about it, and I thought about the fact that the union here works with our district, and we bargain not just for money, but for working conditions. And our working conditions are our students' learning conditions. And I came up with a short list of things that we have worked on collaboratively where it has directly impacted students in a positive way. From creating the Student Services Committee, where we proactively work with Lisa Palese to troubleshoot special ed issues, to, I have my whole list, the SIP days, where we can not sub out tons of educators and we can be in the classroom more and still have time to do our work. There are so many different things that we've done. I just found it very heartening that so many people went out, but also I was just blown away that people would think that our schools are not strong, especially in Kane County and here in particular. So I just wanted to make that comment. And speaking of working together to make things better, my one other thing that I wanted to just mention is that we are sending a group of teachers and a group of administrators to the TURN conference Thursday and Friday this week. And the TURN conference is all on poverty and how to solve some poverty issues in our schools, which I think is great. The CEC just finished their visit to the high school, and it's probably not a huge surprise, but some of the issues were around collaboration, structures, the need for teacher voice, that sort of thing. And I do want to say that I've already had conversations with Joanne about the CEC visit. We've talked about some ideas that we want to put forward, and I think that's a really positive step. And I also think that it's wonderful that that we'd open ourselves up to the CEC coming in and giving us constructive feedback, because it's hard sometimes to take feedback, especially if it's something that's like, oh gosh, there's stuff that we could work on. So that's it. I'm done with my diatribe today. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Yay. Do we have anyone from the PTOs here tonight that would like to address the board?
Amy Nelson, yes.
I'm sorry, Amy, I don't always recognize which hat you're wearing on.
Yeah, right, I know.
I'm wearing the parent hat tonight. I am the BIC representative for Rotolo, and I'm here to share all the exciting things that are happening at Rotolo Middle School. First of all, they just had Rotolo Palooza, and that was a huge success. They had 550 plus students in attendance there. Students spent the evening doing various activities, including a dodgeball tournament and dancing. Tonight is the 6th grade museum night, where students present their interactive ancient civilization projects in an open house viewing. So Mr. Masajewski is not in attendance tonight here, but he is at Rotolo enjoying that along with many of our parents. We also want to congratulate Mr. Keith Osbath. He was just announced as the winner of Chicagoland's Outstanding Music Education Award. This award recognizes excellence in the field of music education, so we congratulate him for that. The 6th graders just completed their spring play performance of the modernized version of the Canterbury Tales. It was a wonderful play, and attendance again was great. Track this year has 200 plus participants, so great turnout for track. And the track coaches look forward to good weather so they can get out there and enjoy that. The 8th grade dinner dance is May 27th, and everyone, especially those 8th graders, look forward to this fun event. It's attended by 85% of the class, and we are preparing ahead for the 8th grade dinner dance and the fun that the kids will have there. Any kids in need of some extra clothing, that's available also. And I would just like to give a little shout out to Chip In, and I know that Joanne Spitz is here tonight. They just had their prom dresses, and there were many dresses for that 8th grade dinner dance there. They had over 200 dresses, and they were able to serve 200, right, Joanne? Was that right? 300 dresses, and they were able to serve over 100 girls this year. So they were able to really make a significant impact. So we're so grateful for the hard work that they put into that, and that is really a great, great thing that they do for our 8th graders also, not just our high schoolers. And then the end of the year field trips include the Cantini War Museum in Wheaton and an ecology trail cleanup by the 7th graders. So many exciting things happening at Rotolo.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to student ambassadors, and Sam, you get to carry the whole floor tonight because I think Jane has it herself.
Yep. Okay, so the girls track team is doing really well this year. The JV and varsity won last week. I would invite. I guess it's a big track year for all the schools. I don't know. Little Brother is going to be this weekend, which is the play that's happening over at the high school. It's it's like 1984, written by George Orwell, but different. And that's actually where Jake is right now. He has practice from not practice, a rehearsal from 9 to 10. So that's why he's not here. Prom is May 9. I know we have an assembly coming up. It's called Project Prom. My teachers have told me a little bit about it, and I think it's really cool that, I don't know if you guys put it together, but I think it's cool that you're doing that. I think it's really important for everybody to hear about. And for post-prom, there's going to be a hypnotist at Funway, so anyone who's watching, that'll be there. We've newly got a lacrosse team, a boys lacrosse team, and they're doing well. Our boys tennis team beat Geneva the other night, so that was exciting. Mr. Tanka, he was mentioned earlier, him and a few students have started a boys club volleyball team for Batavia. It's not a team yet, but it's a club where you can go on Sundays and just scrimmage and learn more about volleyball, and they're trying to get more people to come to that, so I wanted to mention that. Our girls varsity soccer team is doing extremely well. They're 9-1-3, and they're in first place in conference right now. We just had Mr. VHS, and John Hicks won that. He's a sophomore. It was a huge success. There were a lot of people there. I was there. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is lately at the school, you guys have been having focus groups and stuff, and I just wanted to say, for all the students, that we appreciate you listening to what we have to say.
Great.
So that's it.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
I feel like that was a lot.
You carried the whole ball this time, but we appreciate it. Next, we'll be moving on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a method of streamlining our meetings by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items is detailed in the agenda and has been appropriately posted in the board packet. Quick comment to board members. Dr. Higson and I have been talking about our use of the consent agenda, and one sort of small alteration that we realize is probably appropriate is anything that we're looking at a deeper discussion about, please feel free to just pull that off so we have the time to really discuss it, and the consent agenda we can just be using as sort of a routine set of items. So if it's a quick question, please feel free to ask it. If it's something more in depth and you want to discuss it more, totally free to pull that off the consent agenda. And in that vein, I would like to remove the Chromebook lease from the consent agenda. There's just a handful of things I'd like to discuss about that before we vote on it tonight.
So you're removing 5.14
Correct.
to make sure?
Yes, thanks, John, for clarifying.
And I know I talked to you about this. For my own reason, I want to remove 5.11.
Okay, well, we can talk about that.
Just a different standpoint on that.
Sure. All right, so Mr. Pierce, could you please read the consent agenda, not including 5.11 and 5.14?
Yes, I can. A couple of things with the personnel report I want to let you know about up front. Under the resignation of support seasonal grounds, please strike Joe Leiferman's name. He is actually going to be a part of the seasonal grounds group this summer, so please strike his name. And then under the support professional resignations, we're going to be adding Joe Fricaro's name to that list. He sent me a letter of resignation over the weekend, and we wanted to put that forth today as a part of the personnel report. Obviously, we didn't know about that on Friday when we put this together, so please add that. With that, 5.1 through 5.5, we have our approval of our various special meetings, regular meetings, policy committee meetings, and our closed session meetings during the month of, at the end of March and April. The personnel report, 5.6, I just spoke about that. 5.7 is the routine financial items, which includes the invoice, journal summary, and the bill sign. 5.8 is our treasurer's reports. 5.9, we had several FOIA requests. Ms. Santos made a request regarding RFPs. Carl Dinwiddie made a request regarding the names of all the coaches and the sports that they are involved in. Ron Reckenmeyer made a request regarding the projects that are being completed using the capital improvement budget. Mr. Giuliani made a request regarding the Midwest Suburban Superintendents Association. Ms. Acosta Knudsen made a request regarding the elimination and creation of various choral courses at Batavia High School. Mr. Baffes made a request regarding the STEM school lottery process. Ms. Patel made a request regarding the contracts related to our current copier provider. And then lastly, Ms. Keppel made a request regarding the balance sheet for the BFAC for 2014-15. 5.10 is the destruction of closed session recordings from October 22nd, 2013. We've taken off 5.11. 5.12 is the updated district improvement plan. 5.13 is the computer lease for updating the laptops and desktops at all elementary schools in Batavia. We have taken 5.14 off the consent agenda. And then 5.15 is our disposal of surplus district property, which actually we're donating a lot of things this month. Everyday math consumables are being donated to a program in Glen Ellen. The RMS football scoreboard has been replaced and is being donated to Batavia Youth Football. There are sewing machines at RMS that we are getting rid of, and some staff are interested in purchasing those, and the others will be put up for public auction. And then finally, we have various books from the RMS library that are going to be donated to that same program in Glen Ellen. And 5.16 is the approval.
Thank you, Steve. Then I would entertain a motion to approve all items in the consent agenda as presented with 5.11 and 5.14 removed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Blakely, second by Hodge. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Is there discussion first? Anybody have a quick question?
Any quick questions? We were, but since it changed, I apparently did not have a good grasp on that. Any last
Right.
questions before we go? All right, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely,
Yes.
Gaspar,
Yes.
Impastato,
Yes.
Stutes,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. All right, let's start in order. 5.11, textbook approval. John, you had questions, concerns, or comments?
Yes, the reason why I had it pulled from the consent was not necessarily the book itself per se, because I'm going to rely on the committee and everything that looked it up, put it all together. I'm not an expert in that field. My concern was the cost, and as I've stated the last few months about what's going on with the state and everything, and when we voted for the new classes, I was not in favor of that, adding any new classes with the cost and everything. And with the cost of it is my concern on it more than anything else. So I didn't want to just keep it in the consent because it did have a cost to it. And my vote is going to be no on it, and it's strictly going to be on the cost factor more than anything else, than on the book or anything else like that. I'm going to leave it up for discussion within the classrooms and everything else like that. I'm just was concerned still am about cost on things like that. So
Okay.
that's the reason why I just wanted to pull it from there.
And
That's
vote
my
separately?
reasoning for that. So very simple on that.
Thanks,
Can I
John.
just have a point of clarification? The class has already been approved though, right?
Yes.
We're just approving the book.
Correct.
So they need a book to have the class.
Correct.
Yeah, all that was taken care of. It was just for me the cost and going on. We didn't have a cost at the time.
You're just being consistent.
Right.
Yes.
And if it's on the consent agenda, obviously there's no ability to go on record
Right.
for a different vote. Any other
That's all I
questions?
have.
Any other questions? No? All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the textbook for the AP Human Geography class.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Impastato, second by Blakely. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely,
Yes.
Gaspar,
No.
Impastato,
Yes.
Stutes,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. Motion passes. Next to 5.14, Chromebook tablet lease. My concerns or questions, because they're not concerns, were not about the lease itself. I actually was hoping that we could have a short discussion about what we talked about this once before, but I want to clarify because now we're moving forward with the second half of the plan. If there is information that we need moving forward to clarify the success of our decision, anything in that area, and what I specifically would like to talk about as a board is we've given Tony some relatively loose parameters because we know that technology changes quickly, and we wanted him to have the ability to be responsive appropriately to any changes that happen in the next couple of years. So for example, we have talked about that we're assuming it will be a 2-year lifespan for our technology. I think you're all aware that because of the issues with the Chromebooks, not on our end, but on Dell's end, all of those were replaced. And so we're actually sort of setting the clock again. But one of the things that I'm interested in is perhaps Tony, at maybe 18 months after these pieces of equipment have been in use, taking some sort of assessment to determine, do we need to replace them at 2 years? Can they last longer? What is really the appropriate time? So that he can come back and report to us and we can be comfortable that whatever our next step is, that we know Tony's really looked at it and made our best decision.
Do we have any information on the amount of repairs that we've had this year?
Yeah, we have a lot of information on the amount of repairs, but it's skewed because of the defects that we've suffered with this particular model. So roughly 50%.
So the repairs would include that?
Yes, the repairs include that. Roughly 50% of all the repairs are related to the screws that loosen and then fall out and then cause damage to the unit. So our numbers are significantly skewed, so it'd be difficult to get a very clear picture. We have a lot of statistics, but I don't know that would be a perfectly clear picture.
Another question?
Yeah?
I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the Samsung Tablet 4. I don't know much about it. We've had some of the classes use, iPads and things in the past. And since it's the K1 younger kids, that was kind of where a little bit of my hesitation at the beginning was with all the kids, but just a little something about that. I don't know anything about it.
Sure, it's much like an iPad. It's very similar in size, but it runs a different operating system. It runs the Android operating system. And the reason why we moved to an Android operating system was because iOS, which runs on all Apple devices, and it's written by Apple, is really designed to be a consumer operating system and is designed to run on consumer-grade devices. And it's very difficult to manage apps. So a teacher can't send an app very easily to a student's iPad to use. And then getting content off of it is very difficult. So that's very different on an Android device, the tablet, these Samsung tablets. It's very easy for a teacher to literally in a couple clicks send apps to all the devices in his or her class and be done with it. So it's really a function of management and making sure that content gets on and comes off of the device relatively easily. So it's very much like an iPad. Looks very much the same, behaves very similarly. The interface is a little different, but that's about it.
I'm very happy with that because I know that that's been probably one of the biggest headaches for our teachers is managing that aspect of it.
And unfortunately, with the iPads, that isn't something, technology, IT, we take a lot of pride in the amount of support that we give to teachers in kind of lightening their load. And with the Apple iOS devices, the iPads, we can't lighten the load much just because of the way it's designed. But we can lighten the load with these Android devices.
So we're phasing out many of the Apple devices then, or the iPad devices, because I know some of the PTOs over the years have donated some and that.
So there's
how are you
still-
going to integrate or de-integrate?
They're still very much in use. We're just not buying any new ones unless there's a clear need that a teacher or student needs to have an iPad.
That particular. So back to reporting information. Tony, can you give me sort of an estimate as to what time frame you think would be appropriate to come back to the board with an assessment of the quality of our equipment after it's been used for a certain amount of
Somewhere
time?
between a year and 18 months, I think, is appropriate. There's a lot of factors that go into it. We've, so far, anecdotally, with the model that we have now, I think 2 years is a pretty good estimate with the wear and tear that we're seeing on these devices. And but at the elementary levels, the devices that we'll be using there won't be going home, so there won't be as much wear and tear, and so that number might be different at those levels than it would be at the higher level. So it's something that, on this end of things, I wouldn't want to make any solid promises about. I want to
Right,
keep
and that's
options
what
open.
I'd like you to avoid. So, do you want to say like,
Before Christmas, after Christmas?
well, I'm thinking like, we probably want a full, like a full school year. So maybe at the end of next school year, you can come back to us and you may be telling us at that time, you know what, I'm gonna go another semester before I tell you what I think. Or at that time, you might be saying, oh, based on the wear and tear, here's what I'm thinking, but at least you can update us in a year, after a full school year with these new pieces of equipment, and then we can talk about when you would come back and talk more seriously about our next group of equipment coming in. Would that be,
Certainly.
would that be
Seems reasonable.
comfortable with you guys? Okay, now, John, I know you had some things that you wanted to talk to the board, things you're interested in following up on. So we need to talk about John's ideas to see if there's more that we're
Well-
interested in them coming back.
I'm still concerned, and I appreciated Sam's response to administration about the focus groups. I think that's a vital piece of information to get, to maybe also help us if it's coming across and using it in the correct way in the classrooms as the resource, the Chromebooks. I still like to get something from the parents who are seeing this firsthand and are paying for this, that there's always two sides to it, but I want to see some kind of information from parents on how has it impacted their kids' study or learning from it, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever, and not just in a focus group, because sometimes I think with the focus group you get caught up into who you pick and choose and who's going to be in that group. And I'd rather see it somewhere out there that you get a combination. And on top of that, with that and the students, and this can be in conjunction with working with the BEA, is when the surveys go out on the impact of how the computers are being used in the classroom and everything, sometimes they don't get the big response back because maybe it's not affecting them or they're not worried too much about it to let someone else do it, but that's not helping us or helping a decision making on certain kids, because some kids, when we were in the technology group, one teacher said, you know, he's going paperless, and another teacher said, well, I'm not using the computer as much, and so on. But there might be some kids that going paperless might be a struggle for them. And maybe that way then they can work it out in their PLCs or whatever and getting that. And so a combination of collaborating among everybody, of seeing that work is what I'm, and I've been saying this all along, or trying to, even last year when I voted against this, because I'm still not sure how it's coming about. And, you know, I'm willing to go the extra mile and say, okay, we'll try it now with the grade school, but I'm a little worried about that. I'm glad they're not going home, because I would worry more about that than anything else. You know, being on the bus, I see what they drop and everything else. Can imagine a Chromebook or a tablet being dropped, so, or what they leave behind. So that's the part of the information that I know Kathy and we've had discussions on this. And I know we differ at times on how we go about the approach, but for me, something where everybody's working together to see how it's actually worked out after maybe the second year or so on, was this a good investment of doing it? Because the cost is still a factor to me. That's still a factor.
So John, to clarify, I'm hearing you say that you would be interested in input from students and input from parents, and that the way you'd want to use that information is that you'd want to share it with staff so that they're aware of any student concerns, that you'd want to share it with board members so that we can assess whether or not, you feel like it would help you assess whether or not the program is worthwhile and whether or not we should continue it. And then as part of that, you would be encouraging the BEA to get their staff to share that information with us. So now, as board, we need to decide if any of these parts are something that we want to give direction to administration, that this is something that we want them to spend reasonable time and resources, and I think it's a fair question that John asks, and so now we have to kind of come to a consensus as to where we want to go with this.
Well, I like the idea of maybe trying to pull upon some of our partners we already have that are out there in the schools, like BIC, who are directly tied to the the PTOs and such, and trying to get their homeschool feel for these things as well. And then relying upon our principals and vice principals to be able to get the pulse from, their staff. And I'm not
So was
quite
this feedback like to the board, Jason? You're saying it
well,
would be
where we
nice to
can
have
compile it, really, I foresee something that, I don't want us to have just this data overload to us to where now we have to wade through all of this, and I'm not really that interested in creating a ton more work to like essentially pull every single person who's using it to have our administration do that as well. I think we can strategically position this to like maybe some student type focus groups is good to have in certain
And we're doing that,
schools.
right, Tony?
Yeah, I meet with BIC once a year. We talk about technology, and the recent conversations with BIC have been about the one-to-one. We meet with PTOs whenever they have me. Actually, I met with AGS last night, talked to them, and they asked a lot of questions, and that certainly offers feedback. Of course, we meet with students. So we have a lot of venues for feedback in the survey. So I think we have plenty of feedback, quite frankly. And I think in many ways, most of that feedback, the parts that are germane, have been shared with the board in the report that we shared, the administration shared with you last month.
Yeah, so maybe it's just more understanding the full scope that's going into it already. So understanding all the work that's coming to what we finally get to digest. Maybe it's a little bit more helpful so I can understand it's not, oh, Tony tapped some kid on the shoulder in the hallway and said, hey, how you like your Chromebook? Cool, all right, that's a positive right there, That's it,
Yeah, I think last time this year, when you guys in May voted for the digital learning plan, formerly known as the 21st Century Learning Plan, you had asked us to come back with an evaluation, which is what we did in the month of March. We did a technology workshop. You guys said you wanted to get into the classrooms. We did that. Is there something we could do that you want to add to that evaluation? Because Tony presented, you heard from teachers, you went into the classrooms, and then he presented his findings of the focus groups and some of the surveys that they gave. So if there was something else you wanted added to that, we could, if you guys want, we could do another technology workshop like that next year. And if there was a piece that you felt was missing, I know we talked about John's concern at that time about wanting to have the more survey, and we didn't get consensus that that's what you wanted. But if it is, then you need to give us.
And it might be almost, Jason, what you said, where, and I think, we won't know if we're doing this till next week, but we've talked about adding a second board meeting every month, because one of the things that happens is we do not get to talk as a group very often. And so I think one of the things that happens is you're bringing us exactly what we asked you to bring us, but there's so much going on that it's almost like we don't recognize that you have brought us exactly what we asked you to bring us. And so I think an opportunity for us to discuss this more fully is a positive thing. Because like you said, oh, that's right, you are doing that.
Well, full board scope of understanding of the work that's going into it.
Right.
I mean, again, I'm not assuming that there's little work going into it. I read the reports and such, but being able to just spoon feed us, honestly, some of the work that's gone into it so we understand the scope and scale, I think would just be easier for us, especially with some new board members joining our ranks here shortly too, to understand what efforts have gone into compiling the data to us to be able to review and make the right decisions on.
And one of the things I'm wondering is, I found the technology workshop at the high school extremely valuable. And I'm wondering if doing that same activity, now that we're rolling it out to all the rest of our, to the rest of the elementaries, would that be something we'd like to visit again? Once they've been in place for, an almost a full school year, would you like to have that same kind of workshop so we can assess how it went for our next phase of the rollout?
Yeah, I mean, I think a visit would be warranted to do that.
I mean, that workshop only included the high school. I mean, I think if we're going to do that again, we would need to incorporate the grade schools and Rotolo.
So maybe it needs to,
or we need to do 3 different ones.
right, I was going to say, and so maybe, should we, so maybe our.
I mean, still go back to the high school. Because I do think that feedback was,
So here's my
appreciated it.
question, what do you want now? So now it's our plan, it's what we're doing. What more information would you like if we went back to the high school? Like, because we're not implementing a new program.
Well, I don't.
I'd want to see like the utilization and the comfort of the teachers
So like whether or
in
not it's
instructional
grown.
models. Yeah.
So we have a comparison from the previous year to the current year.
Right, because I
The
mean.
difference
I see what you're saying.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Are you more comfortable
More
the
comfortable
second
with
year?
it, yeah.
Are you using it more? Are you collaborating more with each other?
How are the students,
How are
the
the
teachers can
students?
see how the students
What
are
has
collaborating more with it.
changed?
The other hard part too was, we were asked not to engage in any conversation when we went into the classrooms. But yet, a lot of the teachers came up to us and said, do you have any questions? You can go ahead and talk to the kids. Well, I didn't say anything because I'm gonna go by the first part.
Well, because
So,
we didn't want to
I know-
interrupt the kids.
I know,
We
but
didn't
that's
want-
all part of the learning process though, too.
Right.
So are you,
There's no, to me, going in, if that's what, and they know we're coming in, then ask the kids, ask the teacher. And
So-
especially if they're gonna turn around, it seemed like there was communication or something wasn't, so I felt like, okay, I'm not gonna say anything. So-
okay, that's fair. So then my question is,
Maybe a 5-minute dialogue in a classroom?
and, okay, so here's my question. Perhaps we don't necessarily want to decide specifically. Maybe we'd like to hand this back to Tony and say we would like some sort of technology workshop that helps us to do a similar visit that we did at the high school to get information from the middle school and the elementaries, and then an update of the high school so we can see what kind of growth there is in the utilization of that equipment. And maybe you can come back and give us some ideas of how you think that could be done, and we can tweak it that way. Would that be okay with the board, and would that be?
I think it's hard, and I know John is really wanting to do a survey, and I understand why you do. I just think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to answer the questions that you want answered, and I would hope that our principals are bringing us the information or complaints or concerns that parents are bringing them. So
Well, that's the bottom line, and if they're sugarcoating it or if they're holding anything back, that's not right. So, I mean, because I don't know, and then how am I gonna vote on something?
Well,
Except
like
they-
I said,
How are the teachers supposed to work
Except
together?
the reality now is
but that's
there
not,
won't be further
Well,
votes on rolling out
I'm-
this
I'm
program.
just
So
hoping
now
then-
we're monitoring it. So that's a different set of information that we're trying to get, which is why I understand that returning to the high school and getting an understanding of how that's grown is a reasonable monitoring request. That makes sense to me. Again, I don't know that right here, right now, we can hammer out exactly what it should look like, which is
Right.
why I go back to, Tony, can you come to us with, here are the goals we'd like to meet. We'd like to have some sort of technology, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing you all kind of say the same thing. We'd like a technology visit and assessment of the middle school and the elementaries, and we'd like a return to the high school of some sort that could allow us to see what kind of growth that we can see over the past year or the next year. And if you could bring us some ideas of what that would look like, and we can discuss and really land on exactly what we'd like to do.
and then just to kind of piggyback to maybe help with John, maybe making sure that Tony is communicating with the principals so that then Tony can give us a report of what they're hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just to, I mean.
So as part of that assessment and technology visit, we're asking Tony to be sort of being the gathering place for all of those administrators to share.
Positive and negative.
Yep. Is that?
I mean,
No, I
That makes sense?
agree. I think what's hard about it is that we're trying to get feedback back from something that is brand new, an initiative from last year. And I think if you go back a number of years ago, before I was even, sat on the board, but going back and seeing how sometimes the old board and way back when they would approve something, they would approve it and that would be it. There'd be no follow-up on it. And I think certain things like this need to have follow-up on it.
We actually should be monitoring everything. we're
Right,
doing.
and that's what I think we're trying to get to now as this board has been with communication and everything. It's just that maybe I look at it one way and everybody else looks at it, or a couple other people look at maybe a visual how I look at it and.
Right. And what'll end up
And then-
happening is we'll land on something that is meaningful,
Right,
but it
and
won't
I'm
meet
fine
every
with that.
single one of our
And I'm
needs.
fine with that.
Okay.
As long as,
So is there anything else that you would like added to this that we would like Tony to come back and answer? So he's compiling feedback from administration. He's going to design some sort of workshop that would allow us to get growth at the high school and how it's working at the middle school and the elementaries. Is there anything more that we would like as a board to ask Tony to bring back to us?
I think we covered it
Yep.
for now.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to approve.
There's one thing.
Oh, sorry, Tony. I guess I didn't ask you. You were just nodding to me. I thought, oh, he's so happy.
There's one thing. So approval of this plan
Oh.
is just for the lease itself of a 2-year dollar buyout lease of the Chromebooks and tablets and cartons. What we need to do, though, is secure a partial revenue stream for the cost of these, and that would be the increase in student fees. What you are approving tonight is simply the purchase of the devices, and what we'll bring to you next month will be the $75 increase in student fees. If you don't raise the 75, if you don't raise the fees, the district will not have about, well, Chris, I wish Chris was here, but we wouldn't have about $250,000 of what we would otherwise expect to have next year.
And are those impact fees at the K through 5 level?
Yes.
Solely, it's not 75 across the board?
It's 75 at
K through 12.
K-5. We did 612 last year.
I know,
Right.
but I'm just making sure.
Yes.
So it's going to be
Right.
75.
So we're rolling that same model out?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's much like our AP textbook. If we approve this, then step 2 would be we'd need to approve that associated fee. So be aware. Or find some other place in our budget to pay for that if we had some issue.
Yeah, that's why I'm sure Chris wishes he could be here to tell you that there
So he
isn't.
could be joking as I say that.
So all along in the reports, like if you go back to last month's board report, Tony did say that there'd be some pieces that you would be approving separately. One would be the lease, one would be the student fee, one would be the learning management system. So those pieces are coming separately. The student fees would be next month.
So it's still gonna be a 2-year rollout,
K through 5, right?
K through 5?
Or
We already
I'm not sure what
increased
2-year
fees.
means in that report.
Well, it's a 2-year agreement on the devices we're having,
Yes.
but,
We will own those devices in 2 years.
but the students don't get to ever take them home, so they, well, with how we have
Well,
it.
So what's gonna
About
what's
3
gonna
years.
happen, if they last 3 years, then the 3rd year, they don't have to pay a fee? Or are we gonna charge a fee
Well,
for at least the grade
Well,
school?
I would assume we'd revisit that
Yes.
at that point.
They'll never last 3 years.
Is that something we would come back to after 2 years?
Well, that's part of what I was asking Tony for,
that
like
would,
in a
the
year.
fees would obviously have to be part of the replacement schedule, and if the replacement schedule changes, obviously the fees are going to need to change. And so that would be something that would be part of what we revisit in a year to 18 months from now.
Does that make sense?
With how we're structuring it now with the 6 through 12, where after 2 years, essentially, the student gets to keep their device since they bring it home and everything, how will we formulate that with K through 5, where they never really get to take the device home or have a, I'm not even, are they going to have an individualized device that's going to be assigned to them specifically, or is it going to be an open-end user type thing where they log on?
It's going to be a device that's assigned to them to use while they're in school, and there's a possibility that at the higher grade levels, 4th and 5th,
We'll carry it over.
no, that schools and teachers in those schools as a grade level would decide perhaps if it made sense to send those devices home, which other arrangements would then need to be made. But it would have to be grounded in some sort of instructional purpose. But we're going to leave that to schools to decide at some point in the future. And certainly we'd be working with them to do that. At the high school level, we've said that early on the model was that in 2 years you'd own the device. Well, now that we're having to replace these devices because of the defect, that throws our 2-year model out the window, and so obviously now we're going to have to help people understand why this has changed. I still believe that these devices will last at that higher level, only 2 years, and so, but we're going to reevaluate in a year to 18 months and see where we end up. But since we've promised that those students in grades 6 through 12 would own those devices when we were done using them, we'll do that. One of the things that I think we've made a mistake on was saying that, because students think they own these devices now, and they treat them as if they own them. So then they tell us that, oh, I can root this computer and delete the operating system, install my own, and do whatever I please with this unit, or I can deface it or destroy it, and when it's time to move to a new school or graduate, I can hand that device in, and it's so ruined that we couldn't reissue it to another student, and yet it's an asset that's really been wasted in so many regards. And so I think that whole model where we say you'd own it in 2 years was a mistake, frankly.
I agree with
And it also is confusing things at the elementary level, and the replacement cycles change. So we're going to stick with the commitment we made at 612, but we're not going to make that commitment in K5. Long story short.
Okay.
Long story long.
Okay.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I didn't want to have that type of mentality going out for,
Right, for K.
yeah,
or
for K through 5.
Yeah.
You know, adding more technology into a household is strenuous enough when you have 6 through 12, but now you think your kid who's in first grade by third grade is going to have his own laptop, and that might.
Quick question about like liability on the insurance. So is that something we're still going to be recommending parents take because if the child drops it at school?
So we don't make any recommendations on insurance. We
Okay.
offer options for insurance.
I'm sorry, are we offering that option?
We are not offering at the elementary level because the devices are staying in school.
Okay, so if something happens, then we'll be responsible for,
Not necessarily, it all depends on the circumstances.
got it.
You know,
So if someone throws it across the room, we'll
or
still
pours
probably have
pours the
some.
chocolate milk in it.
There have been, in the pilots that we've conducted for the last,
Very few, right?
there are practically no issues. I don't anticipate issues.
I think teachers have have handled that in an amazing way. They've got great control on that and recognize it as a tool and treat it respectfully. Any other questions? All right, then I would entertain a motion to approve the fiscal year 16 Chromebook tablet lease as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Blakely, second by Stoops. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Dremmel.
Yes. Motion passes. Next, there's no item just for discussion?
Nope, we don't.
Like, wow, a whole section is blank. Moving on to action item 7.1, I believe Mr. Iglesias, you're up
Still on the hot
again,
seat.
digital learning plan.
This is really.
This is you and Brad.
Brad and I. I'll let Brad talk about the collaboration and then I'll talk about the recommendations for purchase.
So after the Batavia Public Schools was approached with an 18-district online charter school, which was rejected soundly by all 18 districts involved, we really took a look at where we could facilitate our own opportunities for students in terms of online and blended learning. Online learning and blended learning are part of a continuum of options for students to access content and education and feedback and instruction, very much like what we're seeing in our classrooms right now. But how do we take this to the next level? We were a part of a consortium including Naperville 203, Indian Prairie 204, Wheaton 200, Caneland as well, and that didn't seem to meet our needs, but we knew that this is an area where we need to make significant progress. So we have been working with districts in our area that we collaborate regularly with to kind of chart a way forward together in a way that's flexible to meet each district's needs, but also collaborative enough where we can move forward together. Illinois is a state that's fairly far behind in this area when you look at the national landscape of online and blended learning. So moving together seems to be a great move because it allows us to share learning, resources, and work together smarter, not harder. So that was our original intention. We did add Huntley to the mix, who has significant experience with online and blended learning, particularly at their high school level. They're a district that has committed to integrating technology into the learning environment for several years and has plans to do so more significantly in the future as well. So we are pleased to partner with these districts. There are really a couple different features to this. One, if I could categorize it into two pieces, I would say there's a purchasing consortium. So we're able to, because we're working together, and Tony does this for us, to leverage certain vendors to get prices on things that we wouldn't normally be able to get with our 6,500 students. So when you're talking about the 6 districts working together, we're able to leverage prices a little bit better. We've seen significant savings in many of these areas. So tonight there are 2 action items related to this, and Tony can talk more specifically about that, but that's one kind of branch of this collaboration or this consortium. The other is really partnering to build online content. You'll see that one of the agenda items is the approval of Edmentum, which is an online content vendor We examined 7 different vendors, including existing ones for Batavia, and found that they had varying degrees of quality. What we also saw is that there was no one perfect product for our students here in Batavia. And every district who was a part of that process also saw the same thing. There were some that were better than others, but there was no exact fit for our kids. And we said, we can do this better. And we said that we would work together in a collaborative fashion to build online content around a certain set of courses. And really the stipulation with this partnership is that we will share whatever we create. So if Batavia builds an online consumer ed class, we're going to share that with these other 6 districts. And they can take it out and change it to meet their students' needs, but those changes need to be put back in the warehouse. So this is really a very flexible model to meet the varying needs of districts. Even though we're all pretty similar, there are different needs and different kids that we serve. So it's about learning and growing together. I think this matches our mission statement very well. So the LMS is a common platform that we would build content in. Teachers can deliver this in a number of different ways, including online, which we're not quite there yet. We do with some of our vendor content. They can deliver it in a hybrid model where they're getting some classroom instruction and then they're taking some online, or they could develop this into blended learning, which can look in a lot of different ways within our classrooms. We see this going on all the time, where they're using a learning management system to keep track of the class and deliver some of the content, but the kids are with them all the time. So there's no remote learning going on. So it's a flexible system that meets the needs of the district. To me, this is a pretty groundbreaking for our area partnership that I think can lead to us developing high quality online content that we can use with our kids, and we know will work with our kids. And it's our teachers who will be working with us to build that. And something that we don't often get to do, and we talked about the varying educators who are part of that meeting tonight, we don't get to work our work together very often, because even though there's nothing separating us, we don't often work across district lines. This is a great way for our educators to work with educators from these other 6 districts to do some really meaningful and powerful work. Great.
Would this also allow us to link together, perhaps, I'm trying to use an example, say there's a particular lecture or something that you wanted, that all districts involved in it could link together and hear it at the same time and basically coordinate their efforts and kind of have one big mega classroom out of this. I was just wondering, is that part of also looking to link in that way, or just separate little modules of online learning?
Primarily, we see this as being customized to a district, but then those advances in that, the learning that goes on when you actually teach a course. One of the great things I loved about teaching at the high school was I got to do everything at least twice because of the 2 semesters. So if I screwed it up the first time, I could correct it the second time. I didn't have to wait a whole year to do it. I could do a quicker turnaround cycle. This is the same type of thing. We're going to allow us to learn and grow more quickly because we're working together and other people are trying out these classes. At this point, we're not talking about one teacher teaching to all 6 districts. There would be union contracts and other things that we would need to work out. This is really about just sharing the learning. Although I think those are possibilities, and there's tons of other collaborative possibilities with these 6 districts. We're all working on the same work, but we're all working in isolation right now. So I think this is a great opportunity to start some good partnerships, which you'll see in your strategic plan as well.
So what we're asking for tonight is the board to approve the purchase of Edmentum, which is online courseware, which would be online courses that are pre-packaged for us and students could access them online. Right now, we use a system, it can be very expensive, and we're really impressed with the pricing that we were able to secure with the leverage that comes from the consortium in terms of its volume. Right now, we pay $250 per student per seat per year. And with Edmentum, we'd be paying $21,000 a year per year for 5 years, but that's for any student that we want in the district to use it. It's a huge cost savings. I think it translates to something like $4 if every student enrolled, then it would be like $4 per student per year. So it's significant cost savings. And in addition to share the curriculum, as Brad discussed, if we're going to share curriculum, it has to be packaged in a way that has kind of like common cartridges. You can't, curriculum is very complicated, and you can't just grab it and use it and interchange different pieces of it. So we have to have a common system to do that. And so that's where the learning management system comes in, and we looked at a number of different learning management systems as a consortium, and we've settled on Canvas as being the one that we feel is the best fit for our individual needs, and something that will hopefully all the districts will then use and then can exchange curriculum relatively easily. And then when teachers take that curriculum, they can adapt it, they can develop various derivatives of that, send it back into the repository, and other school districts can then use those courses and resources.
So there is curriculum written already, it's just that each teacher can adapt it to their needs, or we would have to write curriculum?
You're not writing curriculum, you're writing the instructional delivery of that curriculum. So consumer ed's a good example. It's fairly defined in state code what has to be a part of that class. So there's 3 weeks of this required, 3 weeks of this required. This would be about, we have a bricks and mortar class that we've taught for years, consumer ed. What does that look like in an online environment or a blended environment? Because you have to adapt. You can't do worksheets with kids because you're not going to be there to hand them the worksheet. So what does instruction look like around those same standards in an online environment?
So who will do that?
The districts will work in cross-district teams to build that content. So each district is looking at where their skills are and their strengths are, and soliciting teachers to be a part of this work. So building that class could be one teacher from each district.
And our partners are on board with this?
To varying degrees. So there are, Batavia is fortunate enough to have progressed in terms of technology. Some districts are struggling with that. We designed this to be flexible, where districts can kind of opt out of certain things that they're not able to do. Some are not able to do certain things due to finances. Some don't have staff that do those things. So there is lots of flexibility within this. Batavia is going to, planning to be a full partner in this project. But some districts may not have a member on each of these teams.
What about Amy? I don't want to put Amy on the spot. What is,
Right.
how does the
teacher
BEA
response?
feel about this?
I don't know if we've been asked about this, so I would have to, right? I mean,
We've talked about this for 2 years, so this is something that is not replacing teachers. It actually strengthens teaching and learning within the district. It's not being added on to a teacher's workload, changing their work conditions. So this would be something we currently do in consumer education and some other classes that we run for special ed and credit recovery.
I think that was my concern, but that it would be adding to their load, a teacher, and having to rewrite curriculum and redevelop anything was a concern, but you're saying that that's not going to happen.
We're asking for volunteers to be a part of this process, so we're not
And then I guess
requiring
that's
anyone to do
where
it.
the BA comes in, that will you have volunteers willing to do this?
I don't know. I haven't asked.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
I already had people approach me and say, I want to be a part of this project.
Okay,
so.
well, that's something we would need, I would appreciate.
So it's only for credit recovery, it's not like for students who just want to get ahead a little bit?
No, these courses will be for students in a variety of different environments.
Do you have any
Recovery,
idea?
online.
I mean, do you have any idea how many students would take part to make it worth the $21,000? I mean, obviously it's not going to be every student in the district. to
Well,
get
the
down to
primary
$4.
area initially
It's only
is going to
for
be.
like this. It's really only for high school students right now.
High school, middle school.
We've got a lot of students who are homebound or hospitalized that need extra support that we aren't able to provide them right now. There's at least 100, and we'll be saving money almost immediately with just those students.
So when you say it's credit recovery, is that along lines of summer school type programming as well?
Some happens in the summer school, some happens during the school day itself.
So are you anticipating eager students who want to take their full 8 blocks at the high school also having the opportunity to take an online course if it seems appropriate? for those
Yes.
students?
I see that as being something that students would desire.
I do too. The 5 classes that you're talking about that is our goal to develop this year, is that 5 classes in Batavia that you're looking at developing or the consortium?
The consortium.
And have you named those classes or is that yet to be determined?
There's a list of courses that we have that we think are opportunities for us. A science elective, consumer education, Huntley's really taking the lead on that. They're developing that. American government, a lot of required courses, and then some.
Where it's very
a few
clear what the
electives.
expectations are. And Tony, can you clarify again why we save money on what is the cost when we have homebound students for us to educate them?
Well, we don't use a system like this, but if we wanted to put them into an online system, it would be $250 per student per year.
So how do we educate them now?
They get 10 hours of homebound tutoring each week.
And that's all we can give them, right?
And the
That's all
teachers
law is 5
are putting
hours a
together
year.
home, like packets for, or the curriculum for the students, so they're modifying what they're doing in the classroom and
Right.
sending it home.
I guess I don't
Homebound
understand how the
tutor.
homebound students will use this when it's only certain classes.
At
The,
Mentum,
first
there's
5,
probably
oh.
200 classes that are a part of their course suite, so we're buying 200 classes.
Okay, so
it's
they,
not
We are
just
one
developing
piece
the
of
5.
it, right?
But we're
that
developing.
wasn't clear.
Okay, I'm
We'll
sorry.
develop
Right.
our own to, over time, replace.
So it's an
what Mentum
opportunity
is
to have
providing.
some pre-packaged coursework that is totally appropriate to students who are getting limited opportunities elsewhere, and then also the opportunity for us to create and personalize. And I know we have not approved this part of our agenda yet, but I'm looking at our strategic plan, and it seems like, I mean, it's allowing us to create personalized learning that meets the needs of all learning. That seems to fall right into that. I do understand that in many ways we're just creating better opportunities, but I would like more direct focus with the BEA. I think that's sort of a concern with the board. It's just, I do hear what you're saying, and I know that you've already had volunteers, but we're always just happier when we know that you've done a very process-focused step forward when we're doing things like that.
and, well, there.
And I know it's kind of hard because we haven't approved anything, so right now we're in the planning process. I would just hate to think that we are moving forward and then we find that there's backlash.
So if a student registers at the high school and they take their regular courses and then they choose to take this course online, is there going to be a fee for them to take this course? Is there an additional registration fee for these courses?
Next year, we would not be doing that. It would require a change in board policy in order for them to take 9 credits. So we
So-
can revisit that, but this is for students who are doing credit recovery right now. If they're homebound or hospitalized, they can enroll in a full course or the units that they would be missing while they're gone. We have some students throughout the district because learning needs are different for everybody. So we have some students who are 4 years ahead of their age peers in mathematics. They can either take a bus to the high school to take their math class, or they could take an online class. We've had students who don't want to go to the high school, where this would be an appropriate option for them to take advantage of an online class. So there's probably 200 different variable student situations where this would be appropriate. Is this going to affect every kid in Batavia next year? No.
So go back to, if you can, please, the homebound student who's home because of an illness. And so they're enrolled in courses right now at the high school, they're blocked, and they have to take a month off of school. But they're already enrolled in the class is in process, some of the stuff is working. So they would not be working with their teachers anymore, they would go strictly to this online?
No, it depends on the student's circumstances, but when we're doing homebound, it's a teacher taking what they're doing in a classroom and trying to adapt that for a student who is getting very limited tutoring from our homebound tutors. This would allow us to say, this is the content. So look at the full scope of a course. There's 10 units in that course. Maybe they were there for 3 of these units, but they're going to miss 2 of these units that while they're out sick. And instead of getting packets from their teacher, they could go online. They could still get teacher help and support, but this would deliver a very consistent, rich curriculum to them around those units that they would need.
So it aligns with our curriculum.
We can choose what aligns to our curriculum. We don't have to put a kid through a full course.
Okay.
We can say we want you to do units 3, 5, and 7 because those align to what we're doing. So it's very customizable in terms of what we can assign to students. There's also built into the program pre-tests where it sees what kids know, and then if a kid already knows that material, it deletes it, and they are able to progress more quickly through some of their classes, which is especially advantageous for credit recovery. We don't make kids sit through what they already know.
So this program meets some immediate needs, but then also creates a platform for us growing and expanding on what we can do. So it's kind of a two-pronged,
Yes.
where it meets a very specific need, but then it allows us to be innovative and again, following a strategic plan of creating opportunities for students to individualize their learning.
Do we foresee any additional costs after this one and as we move forward in this online? I mean, this is the first 108,000. Do you have you built out like a broader budget?
To me, there's not a ton of additional costs beyond this because we have the learning management system. We may get through the process of creating our first online courses that we need certain software or things like that that help develop.
But not another
teachers
big
develop.
chunk of money?
I don't foresee it, but Tony might know a little bit more.
I don't foresee many other costs unless we decide to do something dramatically different as a consortium.
So this isn't like step 1 and then step 2 is going to be another?
Well, there are phases to this consortium, but not ones that would require, and what we envision, what would require a significant amount of money.
Who's actually in it right now? Who's actually in
In
this?
the
Batavia,
consortium?
Geneva, St. Charles,
And how long have they been in it?
they've been talking to us for a
We're
year.
Okay.
We meet
I just
at
wanna
least
make sure
monthly,
I'm
we've been
getting
talking
this.
for a year.
And then why is you have a 5-year contract and then you have a 3-year contract? Why is there a difference? I mean, why wouldn't it be a 5 and 5 or 3 and 3?
They're two different companies with two different products that have two very different uses.
So if one of the, okay, take the 3-year contract is out, that expire first, something happens with that, and then they go out of business or whatever, or something else happens, and how's that gonna change anything without it being all that consistent? I'm just trying to look at consistency here.
They're separate uses. They don't, just because
So
we
one's
lost
not
one,
gonna.
one doesn't affect the other.
One won't affect the other?
No.
Okay.
So Edmentum is a replacement for something we already have. So we already have online curriculum that we purchase for specific students, and it's very limited. So we are asking that we replace the current online provider with this new online provider. That's the one piece of it. And being future focused, we could do things differently, just like Kathy just mentioned. So we would be using it differently now that all of our students would be able to have access in some way to that if we felt the need. Then the other piece of it is that platform. So right now, if a teacher teaches a class at the high school and they want to give the students, provide the worksheets online or whatever, a lot of them have a Google site or something that they create, but students can't submit their work through that. If you know Blackboard or some college courses where you would go online and you would have everything that you needed right at your fingertips. So it's not the teachers creating a website or trying to, email out different things, that it's all right there for them. There could be the blogging components, the place for students to submit their work, the place for teachers to put the assignments up, their calendar. So it's a way to
discussion
organize,
blogs.
to have the teachers organize their work. So that's step 1 in a very future focused of eventually if we're creating our own content and having these blended classes, we would need that platform. Right now, there's other uses of it immediately. So that's like step 1 of getting some of these blended courses up and running.
Which I see a lot of growth potential here, and nobody has the crystal ball to know just how this could expand. So having even a 3-year contract isn't that bad of a deal, because who knows what happens 3 years, 5 years from now, how it could grow, expand, and what the needs are down the road.
I just wanted to make sure one didn't cause a problem.
Right,
Yeah,
and
and
that's
I'm
just-
sure
that
these
was
companies
your
know
question.
technology advances so rapidly that they should probably be steps ahead of us, but yet also be nice to see how we.
And being future focused, I think it's very relevant that with the proliferation of these options in virtually every university now, I think that it's the way, there's this reality, our students will be taking classes like this, and there are some students that really thrive in this. And again, our purpose is to give every student an opportunity to learn the way they do best.
If this would be useful to the district even if the consortium was to fall apart?
Yep. It's not contingent on all of the districts moving forward together on all of these pieces. And that was something that we very purposefully planned for because based on, lots of different factors, you can be derailed in moving forward. So, districts are in different places and we wanted to make this a scalable opportunity for the 6 districts that are involved. Some will be heavily involved, some will be tangentially involved. But we all feel that this is the best thing to do for our students and the way that teaching and learning is going. And
Batavia will be a heavily involved district? Is that what you're anticipating?
I'm hearing from our teachers and our students and seeing the needs that our teachers are expressing. The instructional technologists have done some surveys around use in Google Classroom, which is like a very stripped down version of an LMS. It's enormous. In 1 year, without any pushing or prodding, teachers have said, I can set up my class in Google Classroom. This gives them a whole bank of other tools and complexities, but other tools for organizing their class online. Whether they're delivering it online or not, that's kind of a separate issue.
If we adopt this, Brad, how do you see this work moving forward? Is this something that would end up falling under CAC, or is this something that you would just continue to drive, or?
Most of this stuff is related to professional development, and the courses would have to come back through CAC once they were developed collaboratively. But this is really a lot of professional development, so I would see PLAC getting regular updates on the work because there is a huge professional development component to this. You can't just put 6 teachers from 6 different districts in a room and say, create a class. We have to talk about what it is that we're looking for, what are our goals, what are our aims, what does online content development look like, how do kids learn online that might be different. So there's lots of questions that we're going to provide professional development to support them in this process. There's teachers who have expressed interest who are, to me, very technologically advanced and could probably do this on their own. And then there are teachers that are like, I don't know nothing about this, but I want to get in and learn. So we'll have teachers from a broad spectrum of experience levels working together across districts too. So it's a very heavy PD focus.
Okay. Are we on a time crunch to pass this today? Is this something we can discuss more?
No, unfortunately, we've been discussing this with these vendors for the past year, and their pricing is contingent on us sending them purchase orders by the end of the month.
So these prices are contingent on that? And we
I'll work with the consortium with that, but.
Well,
Yeah.
I know you guys have worked very hard on this, and we have given you a lot of direction on taking different things, and you've had to come up with something completely different. But I will be honest with you, I'm a little uncomfortable right now because I do sit on PLAC, and this has never been discussed at a PLAC meeting. And now you're saying that PLAC would be responsible for this. I'm not feeling comfortable from the BEA standpoint right now that they're comfortable with this. And I don't know if CAC has discussed it. And so I'm a little uncomfortable. I see the need. I think the work you've done is great. I think we need this. But I'm not sure this is, that everybody's on board, as you're saying they're on board. That's the feeling I'm getting. We haven't discussed this at PLAC at all. And Amy is not giving me a feedback that's saying.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't know, I'm not sure.
We haven't discussed it at CAC either.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that right now, so I think so that's my thoughts.
Besides the cost, I mean, I'm concerned on that also. I mean, we talk about,
I'm not against it,
No.
but I don't think everybody has had feedback, everybody has been given the heads up that, I know we've worked on this for the last couple years, but the other
You just feel
players
like that one
involved,
piece is missing?
I think there's some pieces, some pretty significant pieces with staff that are missing right now.
So in the fall, this would look differently for staff in a couple ways. One way would be if you happen to supervise a student who's online, there's online content that they're already using, and we would be asking them to replace it with this online content. And the other piece would be Edmentum would be available, not Edmentum, Canvas would be available. And we wouldn't be asking, unless I'm wrong, we're not telling teachers they need to put their content on here. We're saying it's a tool if you would like it. If you would like to have your content so that you don't have to create a Google site, here's this product. So we're not asking people to redevelop their classes for next year.
No,
Or
but
to
you're asking
create-
them to use a program without getting any feedback from them about the program. You're basically saying this is what you have to use now.
We're not asking them to use the program, we're giving them the option if they would like to.
And if they
So I
choose
think they
not
don't
to use the
know
option,
that
Who does, I mean, how many online classes do we have now? Because-
Zero.
Right, so what about our consumer ed class? There's
We
not,
buy that from somebody else, and
and
That's
teachers are not
also
involved in
$75.
that at all, right?
No.
So if we just went to Edmonton, again, no teacher is necessarily involved in that if we find that we need to, if we decide we want to offer US history or American history or whatever it is, we have the opportunity to just offer that for credit recovery. Boom, and we're not asking a teacher to do anything in those particular cases.
correct.
Then we have the
And
opportunity.
Teachers were involved in the selection of they went through the presentations of the 7 vendors. So we had teachers from the high school that have experience with online courses. They reviewed all 7 vendors with us and gave us their recommendation. This wasn't their top recommendation, but it was their number 2. The top recommendation is financially not feasible for Batavia.
so what would be the financial ramification if we were not to vote on this tonight?
I would have to go back and see if they would be willing to extend their offer, but potentially renegotiate the contract with them.
And so then what, Tina, what would you specifically want?
I would like it to be discussed at BLAC and CAC, and I would like feedback from the BEA.
No, that's what I
I'm
wanted to
not
clarify.
opposed to this program at all. You guys have worked very hard, there's no doubt about it, and I know this is the way our district needs to head. I just feel that this big chunk of information is a little different than, that I think other people need to be aware.
So am I correct in saying, in hearing you say that, granted, there's this first step that really doesn't affect anybody, but if we're going to commit to it, the second step would require some buy-in and some, probably some
I don't know what to
activity.
get feedback on.
Well, that's what I'm,
On Edmentum, I have teacher feedback. They were a part of the process of reviewing the vendors for that. In terms of Canvas, we can't go with another LMS. There are teachers who, they're all pretty much the same types of systems. It's about how can you get the best system for the lowest cost.
So
This is an
bas-
opportunity for teachers who want to go beyond Google Classroom to have a system that's available to them. You're right, teachers were not a part of the vetting process of all of the different LMSs. We relied on our technology staff to vet those products, so that is
From
not,
multiple districts, and the issue being is that we need to have a common LMS.
I think, Tina,
so we
is your
can't make another
concern,
decision and participate.
is your question more, if we're moving to an online blended learning program, do we have the buy-in of our educational partners? Is that really the question you're asking? So it's not about the technology, it's not
No,
about.
because I think that we are going to go to an online blended. I think that I think that somehow this is going to create some work for teachers that I don't, and committees that it hasn't been discussed at. I'm just feeling,
It's totally fine. I'm just trying to clarify, like, what do we need to bring back so that you would then be like, okay, now I feel like I have the information that I need.
So by purchasing this, what's the next step?
We would train teachers who would need to, which would be our existing staff who use Apex, our current vendor. We would train them along with some of our administrators to be able to navigate and assign courses to students who would need that with that mentor.
So that's the replacement piece. So we're replacing one vendor with another with the curriculum. So the teachers are already used to the teachers in those classrooms, they're already using it. So they have gotten feedback, Brad did get feedback, and they know that this change is coming, that
Yes.
potentially coming, that we're no longer going to be supporting Apex, but we'll be supporting, we're going with a different vendor. So that's
And
the
right
one
now,
piece of
teachers
it.
have they don't have access to an LMS in Batavia, so they don't have any choices right now. But they could start to move their content to Canvas starting for next year.
Content that does not right now exist. So they can be creating
Well, they have
content? or-
content that they can,
The
teachers
the
have to create
tools
on
that
their own.
you-
Got you,
We're
got you,
doing
got you.
full classes that we would build online.
So the second piece is a tool that they don't currently have. They have some free versions, like anything from the Google Suite
Google
or.
Classroom. So they
anything
can
that's free.
essentially use this instead of Google Classroom, if there was,
It's a more robust system. It is a more complicated system, but
that's where the PD
there are
comes in.
teachers who will want to move in that direction. Because right now, when you have Google Classroom, you teach a class, as soon as that class is over, that content is all linked in Google Docs, you create a new class. If you teach 6 sections of English 1, you could have one
Google
LMS
Classroom.
in Canvas.
Six.
You could have one class in Canvas and then manage all 6 of your sections through that one instead of doing the same work 6 times.
So I'm hearing that our concern is more with the visionary part of it, that we don't have a clear picture of what that looks like and the buy-in and what the trickle-down effect is. Would that be accurate? Okay. So it's not the first step.
Well, I mean, if this is the program, I mean, how many steps? Is the first step just purchasing this? That's not necessarily what I am hesitant about.
So you want to clarify that moving forward, for our visionary portion of it, like that we're creating content, that we're offering to students, that we're changing the way we're doing things, you want to make sure that there is collaborative buy-in and a proper process put into place that you don't have at this point.
She doesn't want it steamrolled through.
Right.
Yeah.
That piece is a year away.
Okay, and I didn't
So
understand that.
you'll
We
bring
engage
that-
volunteers in this process.
So we need that brought to us then. So that we, 9 months from now, we want to know what that looks like. We want to know how you got our partners involved, what that vision looks like.
Yes, because that is, I thought this was starting in September, in August.
Well, teachers will start learning about this and going through that process, but they won't have anything created for us to evaluate, look at for a year.
And then again, and that's
It's a
where,
year-long
I think that's
process.
where my concern is, because you're saying the teachers, but yet when I'm asking if there has been if they're
But
aware
I
of
think because
this.
it's a small group of teachers that are currently
It's
involved.
probably 6
That
Batavia
Brad's
teachers.
worked with. And so there would not be a global understanding or expectation because it's this one group that he's made sure he worked with.
Okay,
But moving forward, we
right.
need to make
And that's
sure-
fine that we've had that group and they're on board, but now we have to get 400.
So if we voted for this, 6 months, we'd want to hear what your vision is for how we're moving forward?
I can talk to CAC and Plaque about it at their next meetings. We have talked about it at CAC. I've updated them several times about the progress of this consortium. We had numerous discussions with the association when we were dealing with the charter school application. So I assumed we had buy-in, but I can go back and do that.
I think it sort of reminds me of what, we've had all these discussions with the board, and sometimes we don't recognize how it all plays out. I'm like, oh, I get it. We were talking about this, and this is what it looks like when we get there. And so I think it just might be that we want to be comfortable that in 6 months, when we're going to phase 2 and really have this vision, that we know that there's a process and that you're going to bring it to us and bring it and present it
Yeah,
to us.
these are
So we-
definitely baby steps in a direction, and these are the tools to help us get there. One is to fulfill an immediate need, the online content. The other is a tool so we can start to take a look at our own content development.
Okay. And I think those were really good questions, Gina, and really
Well,
good
okay.
clarifications.
Well, then I understand the baby step, but then we need to continue proceeding with baby steps.
Okay.
And I think this is an excellent example of where our strategic plan is going to become extremely valuable, because if this is the vision and the direction, it needs to be in our strategic plan, in the action plans that surround it. So that's a great example, so that the association, administration, and board, the three legs of the stool, all know where we're headed. So I apologize if I didn't communicate that appropriately.
No, and I do appreciate, because I do know this is something that has been worked on, so I appreciate that. And please don't take my questions as not appreciating that work that you guys have done. So,
any other questions?
No, but I just think this is a good lesson right here. I'm going into 2 meetings a month possibly.
Yes.
With discussion. But one thing that I want to make sure it doesn't happen is that we bring something in maybe the first part of the month, and then the next meeting we vote on it. I want to make sure that there is always, I don't want to have a time crunch. I want to make sure that doesn't pop up, but I think this is a good start for maybe the new board, and discussion like this, as long as we know, name changes and so on and so forth. It just looked like there was some confusion here.
Right,
And
right.
So,
And I can't imagine, I mean, one of our purposes, John, is to combine opportunities to talk more regularly with the appropriate amount of time to really sit on some of this stuff. So I think we've clarified some good things. I think, are we all in agreement as to what we're wanting Brad to bring back to us if we approve this, that we just want to then know what our next, kind of what the process will be for rolling out the more visionary piece of it?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? All right, now that we've discussed that at length, I would entertain a motion to approve the 5-year contract with Edmonton for the Plato courseware at a total of $108,000 and payable in annual installments of $21,600, and a 3-year contract with Instructure Inc. for Canvas Cloud, a learning management system, at a total of $63,000 payable in annual installments of $21,000.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Stoops, second by Impastato. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely. Yes.
Yes, Barb.
I'm sorry, it's, the cost still getting me. I like the, yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Stoops?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Dremel?
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on to the,
She's excusing herself for a moment.
moving on to the policy committee report.
So there's part of the policy report that requires a vote. So the board is a policy making and approving board. And so there's 3 policies there that you saw last month. We didn't have discussions around them for feedback, so they're back to you for second reading and adoption. But the other part that is a discussion that doesn't need board approval, but when you guys create a policy and it's adopted, then there are administrative procedures that kind of show the administrators and the staff and the community how we are enacting that policy. And so those don't require board approval, but there were 2 of them that came up at the policy meeting that we did want to bring back to the full board, and we thought that it was good quality discussion. So the first one is policy 2140, or administrative procedure 2140, which deals with board member communications. So we just wanted to review that and engage in a discussion about what the new procedure. We are recommending that we update it to follow the new version that's in press, which is our policy subscription service. And the press version is best aligned with the rules and regulations that surround your work, and also with case law that maybe has directed us to do things a little bit differently. So press writes that procedure, and we wanted to review it. So let's take a step back and look at policy 2140, which basically talks about communication and the way the boards operate. And I think it's very timely today, given the some of the public comment. But the policy itself says that when a community member contacts the board, that they're required to submit it to the full board, because one board member doesn't have authority to engage in a debate. They're not acting as a board member. The board acts as a whole. So an individual can have a discussion, but the policy itself says that one board member cannot reply on behalf of the board. You can't say, I'm replying on behalf of the board, because that really would show that you must have had an illegal meeting in order for you guys to give one person the feedback to be able to reply. We don't do that. But what this board did, so you aren't required to reply to the emails that the community sends. They're for your benefit as you're making your decisions, and they're for your information. This board has said, hey, we want to go one step further. We do want one person to reply and say, hey, we got your email. And then you're allowed to direct them if you have more questions, or like today, that example that came in, Sylvia's example, you did say that we'd be very happy to, again, offer someone to sit down and discuss at length, so she would have more than the 3 minutes. So that's the kind of way that the board replies to the emails. You guys have given Kathy the permission to reply, say, we got it, and the policy clearly states you're not allowed to engage in a debate via email. So that with the new board, I mentioned to Chris and John in my meetings with them that we'll revisit this again to make sure that that's the mode that you want to continue, having the president, whoever the president is moving forward, reply to say, hey, we got your email. Don't worry, we got it, we saw it. And so that way at least they know they've been heard. And then the procedure that goes along with it really is, talks about, first of all, when, like I said, when the community member contacts the board, what that looks like. And then, the procedure itself, how can you guys communicate with each other? The procedure really goes into that, and I know there's a lot of questions with the new board members. You basically can't ever engage in an email discussion unless it's about, hey, this is the date for, the board workshop, who's available, and then you are allowed to reply to all, but in general, replying to all is bad, and you guys, I don't think, have ever done that, so that's good. And then the superintendent or an administrator can email the whole board, but you guys cannot reply to all, because then you might be engaging in a discussion if it's about board business. If you want to talk about the play or an athletic event or your attendance at the Educator of the Year dinner, you are actually allowed to reply to all, but I know you guys are very cautious and you don't do that anyway. You usually just reply to me, which is perfect. But those are the kinds of things that aren't matter of public record if you're not doing business. The second part of the procedure talks about when is one of your emails public record. So I know that you usually all have emails at home. Those are not matters of personal record unless you're engaging in board business with other board members. So if two of you start to email, or if a community member emails you and you start to engage in something, you really should be forwarding that to your BPS email where we can archive it properly, because if it's an official board record, it needs to, or an official district record, it needs to be archived, and we do a great job of archiving.
Evidenced by Hillary Clinton's recent woes.
That's right.
Mhm.
Smart aleck political comment. I'm sorry for being disruptive.
So anytime you guys are engaging in board business, you should be using your board email, because we're archiving them properly and we can search for them if we were FOIA'd. So anytime an email touches your either a district computer or your district email, then it really is part of the public record if it is board business. So that's what the procedure has outlined for you, and I didn't know if you guys wanted to talk about that. The policy committee thought it was a good idea that we brought this, since it's really your procedure, it's the way that you do business. We thought it'd be good to bring it to all of you.
It was just to bring it, to see if anybody else had any comments, and then bring it next month, so that when the new members are on,
Exactly.
it's more of a clarification and an understanding, and go from there.
Yeah, I'd actually like to really recommend that the continuing board members sit on this, think about if this is working for you, and then let's not really take the time to discuss it tonight, since we are adding 2 more board members and they might have comments that we'd want to be sensitive to or take into consideration and that could negate something that we discussed tonight. So if that's all right with you, I'd like to recommend that we,
Table it.
I mean, there was no action associated, but bring your thoughts next month.
Definitely. And then there was one more procedure. It's actually an exhibit, and it has to do with parent permissions. And we did make some suggestions that would try to simplify the way that parents give their permissions and opting out on when they register. So the policy committee thought it'd be a good idea for us to, since we need to communicate that, use this as one of our vehicles to communicate those changes to the permission, so people understand what they're approving, what they're granting their permission for. So Tony.
Yeah, so this is really a consolidation of various permissions. In fact, from the procedural standpoint, there are a number of exhibits that we use to get permission to release student directory information to various individuals, and we're consolidating those exhibits into one kind of master list of what we ask permission for parents for and what we give them notice to about certain regulations that are we required to do by law. So there are, I believe there are something on the order of 5 various different types of permissions that we ask parents for with regard to releasing their students' directory information to various individuals, organizations for various purposes, which includes press releases. So would be, for example, athletics, anything related to athletics, honor rolls, videos, photographs, yearbooks, students participating or having their name and their photo in the yearbook. It would include releasing information to universities and colleges and all those sorts of things. And so what happens now is if a teacher would like to post a student's photograph on their classroom website, they'd have to go into PowerSchool and check all the various permissions that the parent has allowed or disallowed and figure out which one applies to the various students that are in the photo. Do you have a question?
Yeah, how about, I can do it, but how about social media, Twitter and all that stuff?
Those would be included too, same thing. So,
You derailed him.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
The bottom line is it's complicated.
The bottom line is it's complicated, and there's a lot of different permutations that exist, and so we're putting a lot of onus on our principals and our secretarial staff and our teachers to figure out who has permission to do what. We want to consolidate this into one giant permission, so either we have permission to release your child's information or we don't. And if you choose that we don't, these are the implications of what your child, what will not be released.
It's all electronic permissions now too, right? Is there ever?
Yeah, everything, in terms of what the parent says, it's all done via electronic registration.
On
in
PowerSchool, right? So most parents go click, 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 click unless you already have a concern and then.
And that's it.
Yeah, so that attachment shows the most up-to-date version of what the parents will be asked when they log into PowerSchool to register the permissions that we're asking.
Okay.
Are any of those permissions revocable at any time during the school year?
Yes, a parent can revoke permission at any time.
There was also talk at the meeting that some parents might click on it or not click on it because they weren't sure about the photographs and all that, like a group picture or something like that, but then they would be left out. And we talked about at the policy meeting about then sometimes they'll ask the teacher will say, well, it's only for this, or the parent would ask the teacher, well, I give you my okay to put the picture out there, but yet it's not on record, and we wanted to make sure something's on record that they'll have to go back in and put that check mark in there. But then there was also discussion about getting that list, or if there was a number of names that clicked on that, we would send a letter out to make sure that they understood what they clicked on.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that point later on in the year, they can change it, or they
Even
can
if
change it
they said
ahead
no.
of time instead of at the last time, because they might not
Fully understand.
fully understand. We want to make sure. So I had asked at policy to keep a track record of it this year or for next year to see how maybe the miscommunication or what,
Whether we're having more opt-outs.
right, if some, they just didn't understand it from the wording. I mean, I like the consolidation of bringing it together, but they might not understand about the photograph or something else like that, so.
Do we get a lot of opt-outs, Tony?
Yes. Yeah, we do, but for various reasons and for various things.
Okay.
And it is difficult to track. And then and oftentimes when we say, well, is this what you intended, or a teacher will say, I'd like to include your child's picture on the website, they'll say, oh, well, I didn't mean for that. I didn't understand that that's what that meant.
Okay.
So hopefully this will clear it up.
Right, that makes sense. And tracking, I
A
think
little
tracking is a
bit.
good idea.
Right.
And that was a procedure or policy?
That was just an exhibit, so it's not a,
It's
Just an
it's
oh,
only
this was the
approved.
communication part.
Right.
part.
This is the part we just wanted to bring to you guys so that it was understood or, just to make sure.
So
Gotcha.
they can't, I'm just,
What?
we will go back and act on those topics.
It's just how they opt out of stuff. It's simplifying.
Second reading and
they can
adoption.
still opt out of one, but not
They
the
can-
other. What if you're like allergic to alcohol though? Like the
You can still,
alcohol-
that one is its own option.
Student
When
information.
you're saying they can't opt
What we're consolidating is just the
Pictures
student permission to
was
release.
really the big issue. Like, I can do pictures here, but I can't do pictures there.
Oh, okay.
The alcohol
That
being
was still separate.
sanitizers itself
It's separate.
is a separate one.
So you could opt out of that one,
Yes.
but not, that doesn't mean you can still be in the yearbook.
Right.
Those are
We're
totally
only
separate.
consolidating the release of
Only
student
clean
directory
grants.
information.
Okay, sorry.
So you see, it literally says that.
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
So these are all still separate?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I thought you were consolidating all of those.
No, that's what this is
And
the-
just one checkbox, yes or no? No.
We had the tracked version that had last year's, and it got so
Right now,
complicated
each
that
one
we're
of
just
those
showing
is
the
its
nice.
And this is gonna be what it looks like
Version.
from now
Is that
on.
military one new?
No. It's only for high school students.
See?
I never saw it before.
Because you're just going click, click.
Yeah, right.
Sure, give it all to them.
So we do want to.
Much as she's online, she's giving it to everybody anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Are you gonna?
I just said briefly,
Oh,
they're all second
Post
reading, and we
on
didn't
Twitter,
get any
don't
feedback.
post
gotcha.
on
I'm sorry. I was
Facebook.
still
Don't go
so
on
set on the
Instagram.
click, click, click. All right, then we do have 3 policies on there that we are bringing for second reading though. So I would entertain a motion that we would adopt policy 6.10, educational philosophy, 6.20, school year calendar and day, and 7.270, administering medicines to students.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Hodge. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
It's second reading, so we
Yes.
read it last month.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Stutes?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Dremel?
Yes.
Shoot that last one through tonight.
Moving on to strategic plan. Dr. Hitchens?
Yeah, I think Brad was going to jump in as well.
And I will do a
Dr.
better job
Boucher?
with this one, I promise. I have a second chance here.
Oh, yeah.
So there are 2 pieces to the strategic plan, the foundational pieces and then the working pieces. Tonight, we're asking you to approve the foundational pieces so that we can do the work of living the strategic plan. So you will see there a document that you've seen, I think, 3 times
Maybe more.
already. This has been collaboratively developed with feedback from literally hundreds of different people throughout the district, including parents, especially our teachers. And then we have a core writing team, which is composed of a board member, administration, and the association.
You are
So-
singing our tune, Brad.
That's what we're asking you to approve is the foundational principles. You will see us come back throughout all of next year, showing you things that we're developing to live this plan, including what I listed there.
And this doesn't have anything to do with the website logo thing, right?
Nope.
Nothing.
Well, I think you guys did a great job. I know a lot of work was put into this and a lot of time. So I thank you for all that hard work.
You're just making up for the last issue.
No, I'm not.
All right, then I would entertain a motion that the Board of Education approve the mission, vision, and goals of the revised strategic plan.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Stoops. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Blakely?
Yes.
Gaspar?
Yes.
Impastato?
Yes.
Stutes?
Yes.
Hodge?
Yes.
Dremel?
Yes. Moving on to non-bargaining unit salaries.
So the vast majority of the staff in the district belongs to one of 2 bargaining units, either BEA or BESPA, but there are 73 people that you see in front of you here that do not belong to one of those 2 bargaining units. And so we're asking you to approve their either annual salaries or hourly rates as presented. And you'll see attached for the public, and the public can see what you can see. There are the goals attached, because if an administrator has multi-year goals, or a multi-year contract, they need to have the goals attached. So I'm glad that you guys approved the strategic plan, because those are now our goals that become part of our contract that you will hold us to.
And a reminder that
The nurses are in here, right?
The nurses are in here as well.
We follow the same procedure as we did previously, where we gave Dr. Hitchens some total budgetary impact parameters, and she had the freedom to work within those parameters to adjust salaries as she saw appropriate. And for public record, Dr. Hitchens' contract negotiation has been on the website for a week, 10 days, something like that, and that will be included as part of this approval.
And once it's approved, we'll keep a copy up there as well.
Yes, it'll be. And we have not received any information or public comment about any of these topics. Questions? What?
And the effective date?
July 1st.
July 1.
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify.
Oh, okay, good question, Greg, thank you. Any other questions?
I'm happy to move to approve these.
Then I would recommend, I would entertain a motion to approve the salaries and contracts for administration exempt employees and hourly employees.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Impastato, second by Stoops. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Wakeland.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Drummer.
Yes. Wow, now we're moving on to administration comments.
First of all, on behalf of the board, I have to say to those sixth graders that are there at the Ancient Civilization Night that your parents really want to be here, but they're serving the district on the board tonight. So
There'll be 4 of us for anyone who's counting.
Right, there are 4 board members whose kids are right now at the middle school doing their Ancient Civilization presentations, and I know you guys are sad to miss it, but they will fill you in later, I'm sure. August 11th was the date that we would like to have the IASB come in with the 2 new board members and the 5 remaining board members and do a board workshop. And so if you would get back to me to let me know whether or not that date of August 11 would work for that workshop, because in order for the workshop, in order for us to get the most out of it, all 7 need to be there. And then I did also put draft dates on the BPS website for you guys to look at. We would like to approve those next Tuesday. So if you look at the content, or if you look at the board drop-down menu, there's a list there of all the dates. It's also in the Google Calendar, that on all of your Google Calendars, that they're listed as tentative until you approve them next week. But give me any feedback if you have a concern before then.
I had, in May, you only had 1 date. Was that
So-
for a reason?
It was, because if you think to this May right now, we have graduation, we have Educator of the Year, we have the teacher recognition and retirement, and there were so many May events that we decided
Okay.
that would be a month that prom, post-prom,
Okay.
that was a month that was very busy, and we would forego the second meeting that month and just do one. Because really, I feel like with all of the fundraisers, we're going to be seeing each other quite a bit this year. And it's great, don't get me wrong.
Good catch.
I just got an email today from State Representative Steve Anderson, who sent it on behalf of his office and Senator McConaughey. And on May 4th, which is next Monday night, they want to hold a public forum on parks. So I know at one of our board meetings, they had, we had some comments, and we made sure people knew that this wasn't just a Batavia thing. So if people did want to share their feedback with McConaughey and Representative Anderson, that is next May 4th. And we will be communicating that as a district, so.
Well, I guess I didn't have to write that down.
It's at 6 o'clock at Elgin Community College in the auditorium. Monday, May 4th, 6 o'clock. It's a Common Core and Park Testing Town Hall meeting. And finally, I know many of you have received your tax bills in the mail, and I don't know if you guys subscribe to the Kane County Connect newsletter that comes out daily, but they did like 10 days worth of understanding your tax bill type of articles that they put together, and I thought it was, we should thank this board for being fiscally responsible, and the average tax bill in Batavia should go down by $33, but that's an average, so some might go up, and others will go down. But when Batavia was ranked, there's 9 school districts in Kane County that are a part of the Kane County ROE. We have, ours are going up by the lowest percentage year over year. And then when you ranked us with any district that has even a little bit of boundary in Kane County, they did a comparison and we're the second lowest as far as increase in taxes year over year. And a big part of that is your bond refunding that you do, and that's saved the taxpayers $5 million in payments over since 2011. So you are to be commended for that. And those are my comments.
Congratulations. Board member comments. John, would you like to start tonight?
Sure. As always, thank everyone at RJAC for getting all the information to us and all the hard work you guys have done. All the principals, administrators for, working together to get some of these topics going and all the hard work behind the scenes. I attended the Sports Booster Dinner Dance last week, and another great turnout and great cause, what they do. I wanted just to congratulate the Can Do organization for their work and celebrating the excellence of honoring some of our great teachers, our staff members that do a good job. It's also awesome that we have a great group of individuals that year in and year out are dedicated with BFE. Without their great work and the grants, it would be difficult for some of our teachers, but I think they put a lot of that time and energy to good use, and glad the payments come in to help them. Job well done on the Hall of Honor Committee. I think it's something that is going to be fruitful in the years to come, and hopefully get some really more distinguished individuals throughout the years. I wanted to thank all the candidates that ran for the school board and all the voters that went out to vote. I wanted to congratulate John Dryden and Chris Lowe for being new members to the board next week, and Kathy Dremel for another 4 years. It will be a pleasure to work with the new members of the board and my returning board members. I was going to say they don't know what they're getting into, but we are here for the students and citizens to make Batavia School District 101 the finest school district around. And finally, I want to send my best wishes to Melanie and Greg for the service they gave to Batavia, all your dedication and hard work on working for the best interests of the kids and citizens of this great district. You both should be proud and keep your heads up high. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Tina?
I just would like to acknowledge Can Do and the foundation, their committee members, and all the awards that they gave out tonight, and how awesome it was to acknowledge our staff. And those are also committees that are made up of volunteers, and they volunteer their time to just acknowledge the great staff and the hard work that everybody does in this district, and just to help our schools be better. So that's just, they're great, so thank you for their work. Melanie and Greg, I had to write some stuff down because, this is always emotional for everyone. And Melanie, I've just known you for so many years, so thank you. And I don't think we will stop knowing each other, but I just look at the board as this was just a step for you, and there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to continue out in our community and continue doing what's best for our school and our community, so thank you. Greg, it has been my privilege to sit next to you and to know you and your family. And I believe that you are a true representation of what Batavia is about and why it's a great place to live and work and to raise your wonderful family. And I thank you. It's not goodbye, but I thank you. And I'm going to miss sitting next to you. No offense, Jason. We might have to move around.
Gonna shake things up a little.
I want to shake.
Jason.
Thank you both for everything you've done for us and for myself.
I just wanted to congratulate the Can Do recipients. It's great to get that kind of recognition in our community from such a great organization. I also wanted to congratulate the BFE Spring Grant recipients as well. It's great to see over $27,000 coming back into our schools for such great causes. Wanted to congratulate newly elected board members, Chris Lowe, who's here with us tonight, and John Dryden. And also congratulations to Kathy for getting reelected as well. Wanted to bring up that I was at the Senator McConaughey had a forum on the Senate Bill 1 discussion. That was in Algonquin. I was there and definitely learned a lot about, still continuing a negative impact on our district and many others with Senate Bill 1. But there's some other good plans that are still coming through. Vision 2020 is one of them that they were discussing, and they don't have all the details yet, but they are still doing some more informative group gatherings coming up. So I'd invite any of my board members to join me next time. I believe they're holding one in Geneva coming up soon. They'll send a notice out, and I'll let you all know about that.
I was going to ask you if you could share that.
Yes. And then when it comes to Greg and Melanie, I really appreciate working with you guys, learning from both of you, and I know you've done a great thing for your community, for your families, for our schools, and I know you'll continue to do so. And I look forward to being able to turn to you with questions continually, because I know I value your opinions and your intellect, and I think you did a lot of good stuff for our district, so I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Jason, Melanie? Final comments?
Oh, sure. I just want to say thank you. I'm not going to get emotional. Okay. There you are. I didn't think I was.
So?
I'm fine. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, right.
As everybody knows, I fully endorse athletic plan. I'm going to become the queen of turf. I'm going to become Lisa Farley's Princess Stir, the queen of fundraising. So I'm already have attended several booster club meetings, so I'm not going anywhere. You're going to continue to see me. And obviously I'm available for any questions you may have. I think this board works so well together. And I really, for the future of Batavia, hope that continues. Because that's so important. We can have spirited discussion, but we can have disagreements. But when we walk away, we leave it behind us. So I just really hope that that can continue. And I'm not going anywhere, so.
She's not.
I intend to still bug you. And I also fully endorse Kathy to be reelected as president. So. In case that comes up next week. And I also just wanted to put out to Kathy Safari, who does such a great job. And I landed like a couple really big clients recently. So I really do believe everything happens for a reason. And I am so busy at work that maybe this was somewhat of a blessing in disguise. But I know she's a licensed paralegal, so in case she's looking for a job. No. She's so organized and so is wonderful. But no, the administration, everybody is so wonderful. I just want to thank you all. So. And my fellow board members, thank you.
Thanks, Melanie.
Mr. Hod?
Well, actually, I have a little bit of board information here I have to share with everybody. As your past delegate to the IASB thing, I got this letter the other day from Ben Swarm, and what it is basically asking if each board has an opportunity to put input into the resolutions committee if there's something that you would want to endorse or not endorse. That might be something that's coming up. You have that option to do that as a board put together a resolution and send it to the committee by Wednesday, June 24th, so you have a couple meetings here, and I will pass this along. Just wanted to know what
Can I
that is.
ask you to give that to Dr. Hitchens, since she's currently our board election secretary? and she
Absolutely.
will
And she can send
Help
that on
preside
to
over
you.
the meeting next week, and then make sure whoever is appropriate will get that.
Yep.
Thanks.
So I wanted to take care of that business. I too, John, thanks for, you're so diligent with writing everything down and taking care of most of those thank yous. So I second what John and everybody else has said, but I did write some notes down. And I do want to thank all the candidates that ran in this last election. I can honestly say I know what you go through when you have to process through that candidacy, and it's not fun. It's a long, arduous task to run for this position that is so highly paid. No, but really, I do want to thank you for doing that, and I want to obviously, I'm very happy for Kathy, your reelection, and John and Chris, best of luck to you. And I will make myself available to any of you at any time to bounce anything off, and as I always have tried to. Again, thank you to the foundation for all the work that they've done. It's really been a joy to see all the different areas that they work with. I went to the casino night, was it 6 weeks ago now? It's been March, I guess, and had a riot there, and I think we'll make that an annual event. And I thought it was a great turnout. I did have to write down a list of people, because I did not, and I know I'm going to forget people, and I do apologize, and as I see you, I will thank you as always. But my previous board members, I had the luxury of working with a number of people these last 4 years, and Jack Hinterlong, Joe Papura, Jane Resnick, Kathy Roberts, Ron Link. They were, as Kathy and I, had the opportunity to go onto the board with those people and learn a lot from some people that had been on there for quite some time, and gave us some nice history perspective, and you know, as each board, you hope you've set a foundation and help others to grow and prosper from, and there were some wonderful people to learn from. Some past administrators, well, of course, Joanne Walker, who was there before Kathy, was just instrumental in getting me immersed into the board and understanding where all this data was coming from and how to process it. And then, of course, Dr. Barshinger was great in helping to organize myself, and was a great teacher. And then one person I really want to thank, he's not here, and I don't know if they'll ever see this, but Greg Romanek, who I had great long discussions about hockey with and other things pertinent to board business, but was really was a great guy to learn from. And of course, this current administration, Brad, Tony, Steve, Chris, you guys are a wealth of information. You work together as a phenomenal team. I really, really respect everything you do, and I thank you for all the information that you're always willing to pass along and answer any questions that we have, even, you know, my left field ones that I have no idea what I'm talking about. And I really appreciate all the time that you put into and the passion that you have for your positions. Now, I want to especially thank Kathy Scafidi, who has been just a foundation for not only me, but I think this whole board. And keeps me in line. But just really is great at passing on everything and organizing me, because I lose track of things. Of course, my current board. John, we will continue, I hope, to make our annual birthday, we were born the same day, so our birthday coffee meeting at Panera to bounce things off each other and that. So I won't be going anywhere. And Sue is not here. I wish I could. She was here. I will see her around and thank her for her time. And Melanie, best of luck to you. I know you'll be diligent in all your things that you'll work on. And Jason, good luck. Seat's warm here for you, so enjoy it. Tina, it's been an absolute joy to be able to sit by you and bounce things off of you and just discuss things. And it's getting to know your family, and it's been a real treat. Kathy, we came on here together, and I will be there to support you in any way you want. Not financially though, but emotionally or whatever. You got any questions? But I wish we. I do wish you the best, and congratulations again on your election, and I do endorse you also for president.
That's next week.
We have a whole.
I know, but hey, you gotta get that out. You know, you gotta get
Vote on
that
everything,
out.
apparently.
But again, it's been a great learning experience. I mean, we've
It's been a
bounced a
ride.
lot of stuff. Yeah, great ride, great ride. And last but not least, Dr. Hitchens, thank you for everything you've taught me and helped me learn and understand about the education process. As I've said from the first day I came on here, I'm not an educator. I kind of, I feel real lost here the whole time, but I try to just put it from a perspective of a dad, a citizen, alumni, whatever hat I could put on at that particular time, and look at things from that, and I've always been very respectful of whatever question I had and responsive to it. But one of my greatest joys, and I guess if I something the accomplishments was being able to be in the process of hiring a superintendent, and it's one of our number one priorities as a board, and to do that and to be able to hire you is one of my proudest moments. And I just wish you nothing but the best. And I'm going to stop before I lose it all. So thank you very much. Thanks for the time. I know I went over my 3 minutes, but oh. Should have banged again.
That rule doesn't apply. Thank you. So
Thank you.
I won't belabor. You both know that I hold you in very high esteem, affection, respect, and I will miss you. And I also have the very dreary prospect of saying that we actually have more work to do.
Yeah.
We do have items on our closed session agenda, but on a happy note, anyone who actually sticks around, we are planning on having a little informal time with our leaving board members. We got John Gasper to bake some of his fabulous treats, so there will be cookies after the dreariness of closed session. So, with that said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss a number of things. First, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Student disciplinary cases and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Gaspar, second by Stoops. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Stoops.
Yes.
Hodge.
Gladly.
Rebel. Sorry.
Yes. And as I mentioned, there will be action on the items after we return from closed session.
I'll get my coat off.